All right. It is Thursday night here in London, October 22nd, and a little bit later than usual. It's 7:30 for us, 2:30 in Boston, 8:30 I think for Frederik. And I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am about the next couple of hours. First of all, just the idea that we're pulling off these quartet classes as well as they're going is very exciting for me. Um, when I asked our performers for today what they were going to play, and the first group said, "Oh, we think we'd like to play some of 131." I just was couldn't have been happier about that. And then I thought, well, we've got some Beethoven. Everything else is just icing on the cake. And then the second quartet said they also wanted to play some late Beethoven. So we have the last two movements of Opus 131. We'll finish with that tonight, but we'll start with the first movement of Opus 132. Our guest today is Frederik Øland, and I'm sure I didn't say that correctly, but I tried. Violinist in the Danish String Quartet, which it's very difficult to introduce you, I have to say, because the Danish String Quartet is, until this last 7 months, you've been everywhere. You're constantly playing concerts. I have friends all over the world who have messaged me, have you heard this group yet? If you're aware of what they're doing? And your recordings are astonishingly beautiful. I had the great privilege of hearing you 2 summers ago, I think, at Wigmore at a late night concert. And it was shortly after I moved to London, and I had been to several concerts at the Wigmore and thought, oh, why do people like this hall so much? It's kind of boomy, kind of loud, kind of, I don't know, what's the big deal? And then I heard you play, and the colors and the sonority that you got, I'll never forget it. So thank you for that. I didn't come backstage to meet you, and so I'm telling you now, 2 years later, that you really moved me in
Right.
that
Thank you
performance.
so much. Thank you so much. Thanks for the very beautiful presentation, and thank you for all the beautiful words. I'm so happy to be here. This is such a weird time for all of us, and you're right. We used to play all over, and during the last 7 months since March, basically we've done very little. Usually we play around 100 concerts a year, and most of them are abroad, and so that means that right now we're doing almost nothing. So it's a weird time for us all, but that just means that opportunities like these are fun for all of us. Hopefully for the quartets that'll play today as well. But for me personally, this is great fun. I've done some teaching online before, but nothing like this, and I'm very excited to give it a try. And yeah, I'm looking so much forward.
Great. Well, our first quartet is the Freeman Quartet. They're coming to us from Manchester. They're set up at the Royal Northern College of Music. And like I said, we have the first movement of Opus 132. We'll share their video and just enjoy. Thanks.
Oh, here we go. All right, great job, guys. It feels so weird that you've just played, but you haven't played. So I'm like, um, but amazing job. You're obviously really good players. Um, so this movement is it's so weird. It's one of the most beautiful movements. It's so painful and longing, and I think that it's just everything that you want it to be. Basically, whatever you feel like, it's in there. But it's a weird movement um, for many reasons. I think the one of the very tricky parts about this one, because it's actually a hard movement. There are so many things that need to fit together. And there are places where you need to be together that are hard to get to be together. um, so it requires an enormous amount of discipline. But it the way we want to play this movement, I feel like, is because if you look at the score, it's hugely fragmented. The only theme that we remember from after listening to this movement is da 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 da. Stop. Basically, that's it. Sometimes we get da 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 da, but not all the time. That's it. And then it's always spread, almost always spread out between instruments. We have so many of these. One instrument starts something and then stops, but somebody else takes over, and you get the feeling that he he always wants to start something, but then kind of second guesses himself, or the mood is somebody set something going, right. There's an initiative somewhere, and just as the other instruments, the colleagues turn in and play the same thing, the first one stops because actually I'm not sure this is a good idea. And so it's so there's this play between discipline, but then also, for example, just the first eight. Let's talk about the first eight bars as well. Possibly the most tricky part about the whole movement. I feel like this was always how we felt playing this. So hard to get together. You never have enough bow. The string changes are absolutely hell to get right. But it needs to sound like the most. It needs to sound like you have no idea what is going to happen in a second. Every chord change should be a complete shock to you, and it should feel like it's what's the word? Spontaneity, something. You know what I mean? It should feel like that, right? But it requires so much discipline. But we cannot. You cannot allow us to hear that discipline. If we hear that, then you lose the other side of it. At the moment, in those first eight bars, I hear a lot of trying to play together, which I don't particularly enjoy. That's not a thing I go to a concert to experience, right? I want to hear music making, and I want it to shock me. Um, so I think we should probably just start working on those. But I mean that this the theme of this starting something, not being sure, is evident throughout the whole movement. You have the first eight bars. Nobody knows what the hell is going on, right? It's so weird. Then we have this crescendo. Finally, a crescendo in bar eight, a proper crescendo, and we have a chord. Now we're there. But then this cadenza that ends in a question, in an upbeat that doesn't even have a downbeat. Well, there's the da, but it's an empty E, right? There's an empty E, and then we have the first time da 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 da. So we need to get all these things, this blend between the discipline, but also the shock all the time, the wonder. Let's play from the beginning. I think one very boring little tiny thing that you need to be aware of, the hairpins up and down. It's very tempting to start them early. But if you start them early, you're gonna top too early as well because you simply do not have that amount of bow. So you need to start them later. It's a small swell that is the biggest on the second part of the bar, right? Let's go from the beginning, please. Okay, so guys, there's a small technical issue. My sound is not great at the moment. Is there anybody here who knows how to improve on that?
Yes.
Um,
So, guys, we were struggling with this earlier because we were distorting, so we had the levels turned down, and now we can barely hear you. Um, so I think, is that what you're experiencing, Frederick?
yeah.
Yeah. So while it may not be ideal in a real world sense, perhaps you could play a little fuller than you would normally. I don't think we want to get the tech guys back in to make a level adjustment, and because then on the other end it's just going to be the opposite problem.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, no, that's fine. Let's try again then. Okay, thank you very much. Um, okay, so let's see. Um, let's do that like this. Play it once more, and you all. I see a lot of bodily movement going on still. Like we need to be together, so we need the visual cues and stuff. You're all good players, and that's sometimes we need the visual cues, but I don't think we. It's very tempting to use them here, but I'm not sure you need them. Can we try a hippie experiment? Play the whole thing 8 bars. Close your eyes and don't look, and even close your eyes before you start as well. Yeah. So this to me is a completely different experience. I don't know how it feels, um, but to me that sounds much more like one line or maybe two because there's kind of two phrases in there, right? But you get much more that feeling of a long structure. Um, that obviously tells us a few things. It means that it means that we think we need the visual cues, but we often don't. And it also tells us that visual cues can get in our way of what we actually want to do, which is we think we do them because they enhance something, but they might actually get in our way. Because what the sound you made before was much more like because we needed to be together. And now when you don't have those visual cues, it was much more legato and beautiful. Um, I think that also brings us to another very important aspect of chamber music playing. The one that I personally I think I enjoy the most is the trust that you need to place in each other. You really need to build. You have to trust each other, and that's a wonderful feeling. Putting your musical lives in somebody else's hands. It's a really nice feeling because it means that you're never alone on stage. Somebody has your back always, and you can rely on them too. But that means everybody has to do it. As soon as somebody starts doubting, then it starts being slightly wobbly, and then you don't really feel that trust, right? If you really trust each other, then there's one exact time for each change of notes, and that's going to be the right one, and you're going to be together. That will create a beautiful legato, and it would also create a really really nice blended sound. Um, Two small things, maybe three small things. Every string crossing should be extremely slow, no sudden movements of the string crossings. When you have the hairpins, I still hear them early, and you expand the vibrato on the hairpins, which is great, but you also expand the vibrato early so that it sounds da da. You actually stop the vibrato before the top of the hairpin. Start it later. Let the crescendo and the vibrato go together. Let's do it once more. And also the last crescendo before the double bar is too early. I actually have one. It's obviously a trick question, but I would love to ask you, what does a crescendo mean?
Increase of intensity.
Yeah, that's great. That's and right. Anything else? Maybe I should ask you, how do we need to react when we see a crescendo?
To come down in intensity or dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. I almost always, when there's a crescendo, it's the bottom of the phrase. So that means the softest point where we have the crescendo. Likewise, when we have a diminuendo, that should mean top of the phrase, play loud. But everybody reacts the opposite way. You see a crescendo, you play louder. So and that's just a matter of like doing it a couple of times, and then you've like you learn it, and then you do it automatically. But it requires some discipline in the beginning. So when you see the hairpin up, play soft. When you see the crescendo in the end, play soft. It's only 2 beats crescendo, right? Yeah. Let's do it once more, please. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So it's kind of hard to hear with this with the sound quality at the moment whether you're completely together in the beginning, but my feeling is that you're slightly hesitating sometimes, especially when we have the hairpins for some reason. And I know the feeling. Um, we want to place that second part of that bar later for some reason, but have the courage and the trust in each other to just place it directly where it should be. Um, then when you go on, then we have the feeling of finally a crescendo and a downbeat, but and a confident cadenza, right? There's confidence in the beginning, but then you have the diminuendo, and it's kind of you start doubting, is this really a good idea, right? So so it's kind of that energy you had in the beginning should fade, and the doubt is a very doubtful interval, I think. Then we have for the first time. That to me needs a little more initiative, slightly more breath. Um, and then we build up again. Then in bar, you have bar numbers, right? 18, bar 18, or actually, so from bar 11 until 18, it's the general level is a piano with hairpins thrown in, and then 18 we have um, 2, 3, 1 beats of crescendo, not a lot from going from piano, and then you have a forte directly on 19. At the moment, you play a small crescendo, and you play some kind of middle dynamic on 19, and then you play the top on 21, which is the obviously the natural way to do it, but it's just not what's there. And I think that it's this immensely steep crescendo. It's a violent feeling. It's not a you don't need to. It's not like now we know we go to the top of the phrase, so there's a we follow the line and so on. The regular rules, they don't they're not they don't what's the word, they don't they mean nothing here, right? I think that crescendo it should feel violent. Da, 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 da. This is a desperation. Can we get on with the goddamn piece? But it's stuck. Da, 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 bam, bam, da, da, da. We're getting nowhere. We're trying, but we meet the wall all the time. I think this feeling could be much stronger, and then combined with the initiative of the da 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 da. Let's go directly on directly on the allegro. Yeah, great, wonderful. But I think you can react to each other better. Now we had a wonderful da da dee da 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 dee da 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 da. That should come out of it. It's not a new beginning with new material. It's the same material or similar material that that follows. Can we just play cello first violin from da 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 da? Yeah, I still feel a small rubato da 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 da. I understand what you're doing. It's beautiful. Da dee da 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 da. But I think this is you don't need to show that now it's you. It's quite obvious, and it is. To me, this is such a reaction to what came before It's like the natural reaction. You don't need to emphasize it more. Let's do it once more. Yeah, great. Very nice, very nice. Um, Make sure you come down from the hairpins in 16 and 17 again. Come down to the same piano you were in before, and then in bar 19, crescendo means soft. So at least piano where it says crescendo. Um, I feel like you take out the tempo in bar 20 already, but wouldn't it be so that means that when you reach the adagio, it's not as impactful as it could have been. Can you do opposite? Dee da 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 dum bam bam da 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 dee, and then it's slow. This is, remember, this is frustration. So Allegro again, please. Great. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Absolutely great playing. Um, First of all, I'd like to only hear the three lower parts, the last beat of bar 10, just that singular note. Okay, and then play the cadenza without you guys joining. Ah, okay. So we need to match that. What is that? What is the sense of that upbeat? What's the character of that upbeat?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's longing and to me there I already said that, but doubt. I think there's a lot of doubt. Just play the second bar of the cadenza. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And then only the three lower parts, that upbeat. See if we can match that sound. Yeah, and without trying to be together. I hear control, I hear the discipline, and a nice note, but that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear something that shakes me to my core with that one note. Wham, wham. Air, maybe a little more air. And end it in an open way, not a defined end. Nice. And then maybe slightly longer because we need to adapt to da 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 dee da da yum. Once more. Once more. Nice. And then with the cadenza. Yeah, nice. So like we're time goes by so quickly, but I just want to touch briefly on playing, uh, doing something that's comp stuff, um, and melody on the other hand, right? But playing comp stuff, um, we sometimes we tend to think of it as something that should be like not in the spotlight, definitely, right? And slightly passive in the way that we don't uh, overshine the melody or something. But I think comp, whenever you play comp, it's something that should be highly active. It's what supports the melody, and you need to be almost um, you need to be able to see the future, at least a couple of seconds, or hear the future, I guess. So often we need to in this case it's a reaction, but often we need to prepare something for the melody. So we have to this feeling of supporting is a highly active role. And if you only try to get out of the way, then it's actually gonna, in a weird way, it's gonna cover more because you're playing more flat. But if you're playing exact and bright, then you can get away with a louder sound without covering often. Um, so just keep it in mind that every whenever you have comp, it should be highly active, exact, and supportive of the melody. So let's move on a little bit. Let's move on to, let's see. Uh, I would love to hear bar 23, and you only play when you have this little melody snippet. Otherwise, you drop out. Okay? Yeah. So that's the line that needs to be connected. We also hear that there's a small issue with well, I'm sorry, it's boring, but there's a small intonation issue in the beginning. Da 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 da. The way we fix that, I think, is to have the cello play the foundation a little bit more, and then second violin covers, blends into that sound. And see if you can really connect. It's not a new beginning every time you have it. Yeah, yeah. Once more, it feels weird taking it apart like this, but that should this line needs to come through. Once more, please. Yeah, great. So and then let's put on everything. Okay, great. Thank you. Um, we've talked about it briefly, so the mood changes all the time. It's I think if we really like go to the basics of it, it's this mix or a switch between something that's light and hopeful and something that's very doubting and not moving forward and frustrated. Um, Concretely, bar bar 35 and 6 for example, or actually 34 I feel that that should be much more playful, optimistic all of a sudden. It's like it's almost like it's slightly schizophrenic, this movement, and I think it needs to be more extreme. So in these three four bars, we only let's just hear the without the melody ones, just to hear what's going on. Okay, so that's not exactly rocket science, right? That's just offbeats. You can figure that out. Um, there is a small intonation issue. It needs to be very very clear and exact. But but this stuff we are able to adapt to pretty much everything, right? We react to what the first violin is playing. So to me, this is too metric. Something make them uh, focus. Make them catch you. See if you can shake them even. Um, Places like these are where I guess the point is almost to make your colleagues kind of smile and see, okay, I didn't catch you. I'll catch you next time or something. Um, can we go back to? And then there's just generally a small issue. Um, but the dotted eighth notes and following 16 notes, they need a little more discipline. They sometimes they sound like triplets. Da da dee da dee da dee da dum ba-dum 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 ba-dum. Can we go from 29, the Forte? Yeah, nice, great, wonderful. This is much more fun. Just remember that when you do a rubato, we need to balance it out. So it's not only taking time, it's also gaining time somewhere. If you take time, you need to give it back somewhere. At the moment, it feels a little bit held back. I'm just wondering about this bar 30. It sounds a little bit like da 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 da. But couldn't that bar be much more? Have the sound of destiny. Dee da dee da dee da dee da da. Like sustained. Da da dee da. This is a whole bar of forte. Usually when we play Beethoven, there's so many notations all the time. We have a whole bar of forte right here. I think this means that there's the struggle is real still. Can we start the same place, please? And again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so used to like screaming at my students while they play. I can't do that here. I know. I'm sorry, but it's the same thing in bar 32, right? We have a diminuendo hairpin down going down in 31, and then shakingly shocking for the in 32. It's the same thing. Sorry. Once more. Okay, great. So another this is also a general thing, and um, it feels like you often take time but you don't give it back. So it feels slightly heavy in some way without it being slow, but it just feels heavy. um I One of our favorite things to do is to play with a metronome. And it's something that It's almost frowned upon, I think, playing with the metronome. But it's such great work, and it's so much fun. Um, the, the metronome is always right, so there's nothing to argue about, which is also great. And it creates a really really strong structure that you can be rubato from. Playing with the metronome is the goal is not to play completely metric or in time, but the point is to know where the pulse is all the time, and then you can weave your way through it. Um, at the moment, you're slightly behind the pulse all the time. For example, I think that the little cadenza thing from 34 now was great, but you need to again think forward and think what tempo do we want in bar 38, and then you need to set it up during the previous bar. When you reach 38, it sounds slightly slow. Diddle diddle dum bum diddle diddle dum bum diddle diddle dum. And if we're going for something da 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 dee da dum dum tee diddle diddle dum bum diddle diddle dum bum bum, then I think it's faster. Um, Also, when we go on, I need more upbeat feeling. Ba-dum bum bee. It sounds da-dum bum bee. Da-dum bum dee. Da-dum bum ba-da ba-da. And especially when we reach 48, can we just hear? This is putting you guys on the spot because it's actually kind of tricky, but I'm gonna do it nonetheless. But because I'm not playing. 48, please. Only viola, cello. Okay, so it's good. It's good. It's very good. But there's a little tendency that it sounds like dun 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 dun. Very. This is like I'm taking it very far, but there's a that tendency is there. So you need to again anticipate. It should sound like one line. Again, please. So again, just believe in each other, trust each other, don't wait for each other. If you both wait for each other, then it's going to be late. Yes. Yeah, absolutely great, guys. That's the way to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be stuck every beat of every bar. Um, let's see. Jeez, time is running out. Um, I'm wondering if we should just go to the end once. Also, just because it's really really cool. Um, just one place that I want to mention. We don't necessarily have to play it, but 188. Yum bum 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 bum. This is also one of those places where I end up hearing a lot of discipline and trying to be together. But it is such as the statements of those bars are just so strong. Play the statements, play the characters instead. I actually I don't care so much if you're not together. But we learned in the beginning that trying to be together doesn't always solve the problem, right? So play the music and don't wait for each other, and play the pauses too. That plays. Okay, so let's move to the end. Let's see. I think we need yeah, we have like a few minutes. Um 232. Okay, thank you. So it's again, it's great, but again, I feel like you're waiting for each other every downbeat on those Forzandis, and we get that there's so many of them, so it just slows the whole thing down. I think that the general character of this is there's this feeling of uh, inevitability, or is that the word? Uh, this is you guys just need to follow the music. You can't control this stuff. This is pure nature. uh, don't try to control it. um, with let's start the same place. With this the 1 2 32, when you play da 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 da, have the feeling of never touching the ground. You can't land anywhere. It's always carried through. You never touch the ground. Same place, please. Yeah, great. Before we do the very end, um, I'm very sorry, but I still feel like you're slowing down. Diddle diddle dee dun dun diddle diddle dee dun dun diddle diddle dee dun diddle diddle dee dun dun diddle diddle da dun dum diddle diddle da. You can do a tiny bit before 241, but can we just hear without first violin actually from 236 and go nuts, go totally nuts. Yeah, this is crazy music. I think that the notes with the carrots on them, not too short. Dum ba da 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 bum 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 da 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 da. Um, and then we have those. There's small technical issues because we, for example, second violin in 240 and 239, we have the string crossings, and then we have the last beat where we preferably want to be in third positions, which you do, which is great. But we just can't allow time to be an issue. We can't allow technical issues to affect how we play it, I think. So I highly sympathize with the issue because I play second violin too in this one, and I know exactly the feeling. But there's just no mercy. You need to go on. It needs to be absolutely without mercy, I think. And then when we go on, it should bar 241 and 242 with the those are violent. The, they're really violent. These are slaps in the face. Dum ba da da bam da 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 dum. And then a scary diminuendo in the last part of 242. Again, a violent diminuendo going down to this piano. And then we build. And 247, we get a fortissimo, finally a fortissimo. But it's not just loud. This is pain crying out. Make this stop. Why can't we get out of this movement? It's not just loud. Why do we keep running into walls? And then there's resignation. This maybe the most beautiful place in the whole movement, 250, those 4 bars. It's heartbreaking. It's disaster. It's resignation. I can't take it anymore. Don't control it. Don't try to be together. Close your eyes when you play those 4 bars. Okay, let's go back. And by the way, 235 is also 1 bar crescendo from pianissimo to forte. Again, violent. So let's go all the way back to 232, please. Yeah, great job, guys. Very, very nice. We had like 1 minute over time just to get the very end, but this was great. You need to have goosebumps, chills down your spine when you play this stuff. This is absolutely Halloween material, by the way. um, can I just hear without first violin from 258? And make sure that it's not, don't choke the sound by playing dam bam bam wham 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 out of the instrument. Bow, a lot of bow. Yeah. So I think there's still this motion forwards. It's not 4 pillars. I think it's yam bam 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 da da dee, da, moving towards that. And second violin, just watch out that the last beat of the first bar doesn't sound different because you have the up bow following. It's slightly longer at the moment. Once more. Yeah, great. And with the first violin, and again, I'm very understanding towards the issue with the transition between the second to last bar and the last bar. Um, but if it ends up being daga 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 da dum dum, then we lose the connection. I'm totally a fan of having time there, but in an organic way. We need to have the connection. So just let's get from 254. That's gonna be the last thing we do, I think. Great job, guys. Huge applause. Woo! Amazing. Very good job. So much fun.
Great. Thank you very much, and thanks for your patience with the sound. I think you could still hear them well enough to get some great work in. And
Definitely.
I have to say, so I've been out of a string quartet for 5 years now almost. And this is bringing me back to, I was just thinking, I wonder how many hours in 20 years we spent on on that little passage.
Yeah.
To try to get it just right. I also loved what your point about the comping and the idea that about being able to see the future in what might happen melodically within the accompanimental figures. And that's to me how it all, when it feels the best, is when the accompanimental figures are sort of creating the possibility for the melody,
Right.
Before they even know what they want to do.
Yeah. And I think that if you rely heavily on visual cues, it's hard to get this sense because then you're always reacting. But if you play much more on on hearing and on feeling your colleagues, then this is easier to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, guys, and
Thank you.
well played.
Thanks, guys.
So next up we have the Balourdet Quartet coming to us from Boston. They're in residence at NEC currently. And they're going to play the final two movements of Opus 131. And for anyone who doesn't know this piece, it's 7 movements played without pause. And so when we were trying to figure out, some maybe 6 to 11 minutes worth of music to go with, you kind of have the option of the first 2 or the last 2. And they were kind enough to humor me with the last 2, which are my favorites. The slow movement is the shortest and most painful and poignant, I think, of Beethoven's slow movements, and then you'll hear how that gets resolved or doesn't in C sharp minor. So this is their performance of the last 2 movements of Opus 131.
Cool. Great job, guys. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Very, very, very nice job. Um, by the way, you guys were in Copenhagen recently, right?
A year ago.
A year ago? Oh, it's already a year. Yeah, I'm so sorry I didn't get a chance to hear you. I wasn't available at that time, but I heard about you. I heard a lot of good things about you too. Okay, okay. Absolutely great job. Just great players, and there's so much passion in your playing. I absolutely love that. Um, so let's start with the slow movement. Um, at this point, and much before, probably, he was totally deaf. And I, I have the feeling with these last quartets that um, there's part of him that at one point he wanted to stop composing. He even considered taking his own life, right? But then he felt a calling to keep writing. But I don't think that's the whole truth, actually. To me, it feels like he's writing at least partially these late quartets for himself. um to me, the last ones, and maybe in particular this exact one, is is such a personal piece. um it's a piece that, obviously, when you perform it at a concert, there's going to be an audience. But uh, like, at least honestly, how I feel, I play it at least as much for me as I play it for the audience. I basically, I don't care too much about the audience, as long as I get to play music like this, then I'm okay. um Sometimes I have the feeling that you're showing us your hand too early. As a general thing, you're very, very good at presenting your ideas, and like all the notifications that are in here. But sometimes they become slightly too literal, I think. So we can talk about the very first hairpin. What are we going to do with that damn hairpin? We talked a lot about that hairpin. It's really annoying. It's a long note with a hairpin, and then the movement starts. Why can't we just play the upbeat? Tell me a little bit about that hairpin. What do you think? What's your relationship to the hairpin?
I mean, the silent downbeat is also the important feature of it, at least to us. And there's the chord itself at the start of the hairpin, and then there's whatever it blossoms into. So I think, yeah, those are three distinct parts, maybe.
Right. But in any case, it's kind of a thing that sets the stage for the movement, right? To me, if the hairpin is as big as you did it, then it takes a little bit away from the mysterious character that I want to uh, be in every note of this slow movement. I wanna have the feeling that I need to come to you to listen. I I, I don't want you to explain to me what's going on. not at least not as much as you're doing it right now. Um, I lack a little bit of the mystery. Um, how do you want to end the hairpin? Let's just play the hairpin. Okay, yeah, great. So first of all, do you really need like a cue going like ba? Then you're gonna get a very clear beginning. But is that really what we want? Isn't it something that comes out of the empty first beat? And then there's a slight a blossoming of the sound, but it's not like a complete garden that's popping up in front of us, right? It's it's longing to, it's pain, it's suffering, it's hope, it's light, but it's also darkness. Can you try once more? That's not exactly easy instructions, but sorry. Okay, great, very nice. I think it's there's this you're doing a gap in the second bar between the hairpin and the piano. To me, that's slightly too big. It's too comfortable. Isn't there a sense of gasping for air almost? And then I think you should let our dear viola player just play that melody beautifully and support him in that. Whenever you want to do the crescendo in the end, that's where you support it, not earlier. Great, wonderful. But again, this crescendo, I feel like you reach a level where I can almost say this: you reach a 40 or something. But isn't this a failed crescendo? These supertones. There's so many supertones in Beethoven's music, and we need to talk about what they mean, because otherwise it's just going to be a sound becoming louder and then a soft sound afterwards. But what do they mean? I think this is a failed crescendo. We want to go somewhere, but we're not successful. So we need to have the sense that it could have been more than it is. Do you know what I mean? And then again, I think the gap that you're doing between bar 4 and 5 is slightly too big, slightly too comfortable. Yes, beautiful, wonderful, guys. It sounds absolutely beautiful. Um, but I do want to. I don't know if you listened in on the previous quartet, but I do want to make the same experiment with you. In the beginning, um, I get the feeling it's kind of hard to hear online with the sound quality and everything. Um, but I do get the feeling that you were um, hesitating or at least waiting for each other on the beats of the melody. Can we? Would you do us a favor and just play the melody once, please? Is that okay? Just from the upbeat to the third bar. Yes, beautiful, very beautiful. So after this crescendo, there's a tension that's a build up, and then there's a resignation in the piano. But it's a resignation it's a feeling of letting go. I think. Da dim, da dee, da. So maybe not as da da dee, da. And but in any case, what we heard here was really beautiful and wonderfully legato and everything. As soon as everybody plays together, um that's like a universal tendency when we play stuff like this, then it becomes less legato, and the only reason is that we want to play together. So what I want to do, like I did with the other quartet, is I want to ask you if you could play the beginning until, well, maybe until bar 10, including bar 10, with your eyes closed. Yes, great. Thank you so much, guys. I didn't want to stop you, but we have limited time. But this was so beautiful, and I think at least through Zoom, uh, it was a completely different listener experience. This caught me much more than before. Before also caught me because you're good, but this was so much better. And I don't know, how does it feel to play like this? Good. I think that when we also do this a lot, and it's kind of a cheap trick, but it's so effective. And I think what happens is that well, it shows us different things like we talked about in the previous quartet, but also the feeling of um, the shackles of the visual cues. It's so nice to shake them. You don't need them. They're in our way. Don't rely on them. It's false security. You don't need them. When you've played together for a long time, like you have, and you're good players, you absolutely don't need them. It's much better to rely on hearing and feeling each other. You, just by the way you on the viola play that melody tells you when the next beat is gonna come. The sound of the legato he makes. You don't need the visual cues at all. And now this sounded like one big line, and I think this music is it's something that it moves a little bit like this but it never lands. It's never boop and then takes off again. It's always something in between weird. When we move into bar 11, I mean, only Beethoven can write just two beats that are so lovely to play. Dee, da, da. Jesus Christ, break my heart. It's the best thing in the world playing those bars. I think cello. I think you need to be slightly more supportive. I think you're a little bit reactive. So what I hear could also be the sound quality and everything, but it sounds slightly passive to me. Those bass notes. It's not just a color. I think there's destiny involved in all those changes. Can we start just 11? No, no. Upbeat viola cello to 11. Yes, exactly. So there's the sense of dum tin tum pi. It's not just da dee da da. Every note should feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. Let's play from there and we move on. And when you move on, the crescendo, not too early and not too big. Again, don't show me the hand. I don't want to see the I don't want to see the magic. Or I want to see the magic. I don't want to see the behind the magic. Yes, great, great. If we could just shape this slightly better. Um, da did, let's see. Let's go from. Can we just play without the cello from 11, 12, 13, 14? And I think the very end of it, the where the second violin comes in with the viola. So I'm sure we agree they can't be the same every time, right? I think there's a shape, a little bit of a round shape, and in the end, there's resignation again before the crescendo. We give up. We give up before the crescendo, and then we move. Can we just get that line? Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So I think that's the structure of it. Um, I think you can connect slightly better. Um, don't start something new when you enter. Just take over the sound, and when you have the da 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 in the end together, that's where you really need to place the trust in each other. It's if it sounds dim da da, then we hear okay they're trying to be together. And so let me just say a few more things before we play again because this has to be effective because otherwise we're not gonna go anywhere. Um, so when you move on, second beat of 15, huge importance, on time. Don't be late. Second violin viola, on time, and don't hesitate. Believe in each other. It wasn't together before, I think mainly because you were trying to be together. Don't try to be together. Just place it where it needs to be. The third bar of bar 16, viola, cello. Also huge importance. Don't be too late. This 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 third beat brings us into the this resignated letting go feeling of the next bars, of the next bar basically. So 11 and we move on. Yeah, great. Very, very, very beautiful. Um, Small, boring detail. I think you could play the dotted eighth note, 16th note, slightly more uniformed. Some players are playing dum, ba, ba, and some are playing da, da, da. Maybe, maybe somewhere in between, I don't know. But it sticks out a little bit that you're not playing them exactly alike. Um, what do we want to project character wise, mood wise in the crescendo before 24 and on the top of 24?
The sense of grief as it builds.
A sense of what? Sorry.
Grief and the type of pain that happens in the beginning of 23 as it builds. So it's more like an outcry on the top of it. Whereas the other ones were more
Yeah. Great. I think that's a great idea. But you can do that more than. At the moment, it sounds quite loud, but I don't get exactly what you want to say with it. I think a danger with dynamics is that we take them too literal. So it's a piano is soft, a forte is loud, but we need to always think about what's behind the dynamics and how do we interpret dynamics. It's as much a character description as anything else. Um, Very beautifully played on 26. I love that. I love this change in color, but bar 26 sounds a little bit dense. So you're playing this with very little or no vibrato, right? Um, just make sure that the bow isn't stuck in the piano. Make sure that it always moves, even in soft dynamics. I think a good kind of rule of thumb is that one should avoid playing with like a permanent tempo of the bow. As long as it's one tempo, then it sounds passive or it sounds uh, like still in a way, right? But if there's a movement that always changes, the speed of the bow changes always, then there's life. Then I think again, this is obviously this is all taste and so on, but I think you could come across with your message more clearly if you don't crescendo as much in bar 27. it almost becomes kind of violent, and I don't think it is. I think it is these failed attempts. I- You're showing me very clearly this is a crescendo, but I want to hear the thought behind it. The hairpin afterwards, I hear a forte on the basically on the just after the second beat of the last bar. I don't hear the crescendo going all the way. Okay, so let's play now, and then we move on into the last movement. So we play from upbeat to 19. Okay, great guys. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Great job. I think the slow movement is even better now than it were before. Um, by the way, bar 26 of the slow movement sounded great now. Really beautiful. So then we move into this crazy last movement. I think it's very important to think from the very beginning of this movement, at least from bum ba bum bum ba bum ba bum, that it's a long movement. We need to be able to carry it the whole way. Um, if you blow all the fuses in the beginning, then then you can't really go further. Um, by that I both mean so it says fortissimo, but in the character there's a noble feeling too. I think yum ba bum ba bum ba ba bum ba bum ba bum. There's something I won't let this break me feeling, right? It's not just this is not just frustration. I think, right? There's that element too, but it's not just that. If you can find, often I think it's a good idea to find two characters that doesn't necessarily complement each other. So if you only go for violence and brutality, for example, then it's going to be slightly one-dimensional. But if you go for frustration combined with something noble or defiance or something, then you have that's two characters that are kind of rubbing against each other, but that gives a very complex picture, a complex sound. Um, so let's just for everybody to hear this, can we just play the beginning slowly, just with all the intervals? Bum da da dum dee da dum. Yeah. Ugh. such a statement in those opening bars, and it's this again two contrasting ideas actually. There's the dead silence, and then huge activity and a very very strong statement. Um, how do we want to play that carrot on the first in the very first bar? Is it like a big accent, or what do you think?
Resonance. Yeah.
Resonance, depth, yeah. But isn't there also? I think there's also some resistance in it. Da-dee-dum. Bomb, bomb. It's not just bomb, right? Dum. But you're actually doing that. But just so we're totally on the same page, the way you end that first note is not slightly is not completely the same way. We want to make a really strong, very uniform. Also with the vibrato and everything, it could sound more like one, I think. Okay, and then when we move into this next thing, yum ba bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. At the moment, you're playing very well together, but I feel like you're almost too friendly towards the melody line. There's also a sense of there it's like riding, right? There's this riding motion going on, and uh, I think it needs to be a ride that's you don't stop for anybody. You're going full speed. The wind in the hair. You don't look back. If you're riding with somebody and they fall, you keep going. It's this. You can't stop, right? Don't be too polite. If you on the first violin wanna be slightly, and I completely understand. I play first violin in this one, so I completely understand. And you also want to shape yum ba bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. But you guys, you have to be just go on. Then you can be like this a little bit in between the beats if you want to. But generally, I think it needs to be just like this feeling, moving, 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 moving. Even in the piano, don't lose the tempo in the piano. If you lose the tempo, you lose the feeling of urgency, and I think it's still there in the piano. There's always this breathlessness. Let's try. Yeah, great, great. I like this much more. That there's this feeling throughout the whole thing. Um. I really like the way you're doing it, but it's almost too light in the feeling. Every note still needs attention. I think. Um, then this the crescendo in 38. I love that crescendo. It's not just an increase of volume. This is then you like the face turns is the feeling into something back to this no mercy writing evil stuff. See if you can make more of that and less just a regular old crescendo. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, okay, so let's play from Can we go directly bar 17? Is that a bad place? That's okay. You know what? Actually, can we just do this? But because this is interesting, can we play just the lower three voices um, from 15, and we play all the way towards until bar 30. Yes, exactly, exactly. So the writing motion is always there, even in the piano. It's always in the background, in the back of our heads, like the evil voice coming after us. Um, I think you need to play it the same way in the piano, even when it's broken up. Yum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum 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 bum. As dramatic and as compressed as in the forte, just behind closed doors or something. Okay, let's go everybody from let's go from 15 then. So again, this place. So just this is totally a taste thing, but to me the tempo is on the verge of being a little bit too slow. If it had a little more momentum, I think it would solve some issues. But that's totally up to you. It works fine in this tempo too, and we've been very much back and forth. So it's actually not easy to find a good tempo in this movement for some reason. Um, but from um, but from 46, I feel you lose the tempo. Not just in a it becomes slower, but it becomes unsteady. I think you are two nice colleagues. So you wait for yum ba yum da dum da da dum ba yum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba, all these little grace notes. You guys need to be merciless. Just go, go, go. There's a it's a different character. It's piano, but it needs this sense of urgency through the whole thing. Um, so let's just start 36 up with an upbeat. Yes, great. Thank you. Thank you. Um, so I want to jump to something else, but just before we do that, I just want to say a few things. We don't have to play them, but this was all very beautiful. I think if you want to, da ba da ba dee ba da ba da ba da ba da da, could be more cadenza like. not as strict. And then again this crescendo, less just a volume increase, more a huge longing towards that first beat that we don't get. Da dee da, dee da da, da dee da, is saying less, I think. Okay, so let's jump to one of the best places. Let's see, where do we start? 124, please. And the reason for this is that we want to play the piano from 148, this long stretch. Yeah, great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful. Let's just structure it slightly better. I from all these from actually where we started. Can those be more like one motion, one emphasis, and then just a release of energy? And it's always these build ups. So it's and then two bars in one, and the same thing afterwards. Then we have the crescendo from 136. This becomes more and more desperate. So in the beginning, but then as we go on, it's more and more daddle-dam, 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 digga-digga-digga-digga. There's a lot of desperation in that crescendo, and you need to come up to a dynamic where you can you need to stay there for a little bit, not lose too much on the diminuendo exactly, but have a steeper diminuendo towards the piano afterwards. And those, then we go into the next part, the hairpins. Again, same thing, less a volume increase, but an increase in horror instead, or something. It's like thunder from far away. It's not there yet. Then I think not doing the slurs in 160. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that. I think that slur with the two bars in the first violin. The resistance you get from doing that slur. The other thing simply seems a little bit too easy. I like that you have to struggle. And then afterwards, and again, I completely understand what you want to do, but I think you're losing too much tempo. It becomes too heavy afterwards. We still need yum ba bum ba bum ba bum, and then you can do a little bit on 168 or 67 or whatever you do with the tempo, but it needs to move. It needs to push. This figure is a pushing figure. It never rests. Yeah. Let's go back and do this whole passage once more, please. Okay, guys, thank you. Thank you so much. I think we need to wrap it up now. But thank you so much for playing so well. You're absolutely extraordinary. This has been so much fun. Thank you for being here. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. That's my absolute favorite passage of this movement. I always get the feeling like there's like this sort of laughter going on that becomes this sort of demonic cackle as it goes on, and it just
Right.
then possessed. It's amazing music. So thank you for bringing it to us in the really big class. Thank you, Frederik, for your time and your energy and your insight and your patience with Zoom. It's no one's favorite way to teach, but I think everyone learned a whole lot. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Just a couple things of business for the really big class. As always, this doesn't come for free entirely, although it's free to the performers, and so donations are very happily accepted. You can send, if you're in British pounds, send me something at GoFundMe or any currency to PayPal. All the funds that I raise go straight to the guest teaching artists, so the more money I raise, the more classes I can have. So thank you very much for that. And in 2 weeks, we'll have another violin class. And the guest will be Bettina Musamelli. She's a professor at the University of Miami Frost School of Music. And there'll be more to come. So look for that. Thank you very much. And we're going to shut down the live stream. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye, guys.